Beings of light, what I'm about to share with you today has the power to profoundly transform your view of spirituality, of the universe, and, most importantly, of yourself. Stay with me until the end, because what's coming isn't just a reflection, but a key that can open doors to hidden knowledge, capable of freeing you from a system that has tried to keep you in ignorance for centuries. Since the most ancient times, the greatest mysteries of the universe have been carefully hidden, distorted, or in many cases, erased from history. But why, beloved ones, was this knowledge so thoroughly suppressed? The answer is simple. It holds the power to liberate the individual. When someone deeply understands the universal laws that govern reality, that person becomes impossible to control. And who doesn't want you to discover this? Those who profit from your ignorance, your fear, your doubt. Today, we will talk about Hermeticism, a system of wisdom that transcends any traditional philosophy or religion. Hermeticism is not merely a collection of esoteric ideas. It is a map, a code that reveals the true nature of the universe and of our existence. And, prepare to be amazed, everything it reveals, from the oldest spiritual traditions to the discoveries of modern quantum physics, is connected to this vast and powerful knowledge. But here's the question: beings of light, if this knowledge has the power to transform lives, why has it been hidden for so long? What is it about this wisdom that so deeply frightens institutions and figures of authority? When you begin to understand this, you start to realize that the reality around you is not what it seems. What I'm about to reveal may challenge everything you thought you knew, but above all, it can set you free. Hermeticism is not just a philosophy or a religion. It is a universal code that governs the workings of the entire universe, from the movements of the stars to the smallest details of our lives. The name Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, symbolizes the reach of this wisdom. But what truly terrifies those who control history and the perception of the masses is what Hermeticism teaches. We do not need intermediaries or external authorities to connect with the divine. We, beloved ones, are already carriers of the power to create our reality. The fusion of Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge, creates a figure that transcends the boundaries of time and space. Hermes Trismegistus is not merely a historical character, but the embodiment of a deep, almost divine knowledge. And it is through the texts attributed to him, such as the Corpus Hermeticum and the Emerald Tablets, that we find the keys to understanding the greatest mysteries of creation. These texts, beloved ones, were not merely written to be read. They are encoded, designed to be unraveled over time. Each teaching contains layers of meaning. Each word carries a hidden power that, when understood, can transform the reality of those who adopt it. But of course, these teachings were never shared with the general public. They were hidden, persecuted, and often burned to ensure that the power within them was not accessed by the majority. The question we must ask ourselves is, why was this knowledge suppressed? Why has Hermeticism, which holds the capacity to liberate the individual and allow a full understanding of the cosmos, been kept in the shadows? The answer is simple. Because an individual who understands their power to shape reality becomes impossible to control. And those who govern society know this. The suppression of Hermeticism is nothing new. During the rise of Christianity and throughout the Middle Ages, for example, Hermetic knowledge was considered heretical and dangerous. Alchemists, Gnostics, Kabbalists, and Sufis were persecuted, their writings destroyed, and their ideas marginalized. However, Hermeticism never completely disappeared. It survived in the shadows, in secret societies and initiatory circles, where those who were ready could access and study it. And here we are, in the 21st century, with the world on the brink of a collective awakening. The doors that were locked for so long are beginning to open, and the Hermetic teachings that were suppressed are beginning to re-emerge, ready for those who are prepared to see beyond the illusions that were imposed upon us. Now that we've explored a bit more about the hidden teachings of Hermeticism and how it was suppressed throughout history, it's time to reflect on the real impact of these principles in our lives and how we can begin to apply them today. The truth hidden behind these words is not a distant or inaccessible truth. It is alive, pulsating, ready to be revealed to each of us who has the courage to look within and recognize the power we have always held in our hands. Hermeticism is not just an ancient philosophy, but a map for personal transformation. The wisdom it contains does not have to remain abstract. It can be lived here and now. The 7 Hermetic principles, which describe how the universe functions, are the key to unlocking that transformation. They are not just concepts for discussion, but practical tools for those who wish to change their lives from the inside out. The first principle, mentalism, reminds us that reality is not something that exists outside of us. Reality is created by our mind. What we think, feel, and believe manifests in the world around us. By understanding this, we realize we are not victims of chance or circumstance. We can shape our reality with the thoughts and intentions we cultivate. The principle of correspondence, as above, so below, reveals the profound truth that everything in the universe is interconnected. What happens within us reflects outwardly. Every experience we live, every challenge we face, is a reflection of the inner vibrations we emit. When we understand this, we begin to see that our life is not governed by external forces, but by our own vibration. The principle of vibration teaches us that nothing is still. Everything is in motion, and every thought, emotion, and situation emits a frequency. Fear, for example, vibrates at a low frequency, while love and clarity vibrate at higher frequencies. The universe responds to that vibration. Therefore, to attract positive experiences, we need to raise our internal frequency by aligning our thoughts, feelings, and actions. The key is transformation. Hermeticism shows us that any emotional or mental state can be transmuted. Fear can become courage, doubt can become certainty, and even moments of pain can be used for our evolution. Polarity is one of the most powerful laws we can learn to master. By understanding the nature of opposites, we begin to see that everything in the universe is a matter of perspective and choice. But how does this apply to our daily lives? Hermeticism is not a distant theory, but a path for constant practice. It teaches us that when we learn to apply these principles in our lives, we begin to live more consciously and more aligned with our true essence. Instead of being swept away by the tides of life, we can learn to navigate them, using the cycles of life to our advantage. By adopting the Hermetic principles, we begin to realize that life is not something that happens to us, but through us. We can take control of our reality instead of being controlled by circumstances. Hermeticism invites us to awaken to the power that already exists within us, to realize that we are not only creators of our own reality, but also active participants in the process of the universe's creation. The fourth principle, polarity, reveals that everything in the universe has two opposites, but these opposites are actually part of the same spectrum. Like light and darkness, heat and cold, love and hate, everything balances within a single phenomenon, but at different degrees. When you understand this principle, you realize that opposites are not enemies. On the contrary, they are necessary complements to the whole. What you feel is a problem in your life can be transmuted, moved from a negative point to a positive one. Fear, for example, can be transmuted into courage. Doubt can be converted into trust. Pain can be transformed into wisdom. The power within this principle lies in our ability to choose which aspect we want to manifest in our lives. We are not prisoners of our emotions or mental states. We can always change our perspective, and with it, our experience. The fifth principle, rhythm, teaches us that everything in life follows a natural flow. Just like the tides of the ocean, our life goes through periods of expansion and contraction, growth and retreat. Life has its ups and downs, but when we understand this law, we stop resisting the natural cycles. We know that after the storm, calm will come, and after the calm, the storm will eventually return. But instead of resisting, we can learn to surf these waves, taking advantage of the right moment to act with clarity and wisdom. Rhythm teaches us to accept the natural cycles of life and to adapt to them, knowing that the universe is always renewing itself, just as we too can renew ourselves, evolve, and grow. The sixth principle, cause and effect, destroys the idea of chance and helps us understand that everything that happens in our lives has a reason. Every thought, every action, every decision produces an effect in the world. Nothing is by chance. If you feel your life is stuck in cycles of suffering or stagnation, it may be the result of hidden causes, choices or thoughts from the past that are still creating effects in the present. This principle teaches us to take responsibility for what happens in our lives. We are not victims of fate, but co-creators of our reality. When we begin to recognize the causes behind the effects we experience, we can make conscious choices that change the course of our life. Finally, the seventh principle, gender, teaches us that masculine and feminine energy is in everything. These principles do not refer only to biological gender, but to two fundamental cosmic forces that exist in all things. The masculine principle is active, logical, rational, while the feminine principle is receptive, intuitive, creative. The balance between these two energies is what enables the manifestation of reality. When these energies are out of balance, manifestation is blocked. Life becomes harder, more chaotic. But when we manage to integrate and balance these two forces within us, the doors of creation and fulfillment open. The secret of manifestation lies in being able to balance action with intuition, thought with feeling, reason with creativity. True creation happens when we act at the right time, with the right intentions, and through the appropriate means. These seven principles are like powerful lenses that allow us to see the universe in a completely new way. They teach us that we are not at the mercy of external forces, but that we are, in fact, co-creators of our reality. When we understand these principles and begin to apply them consciously in our lives, we begin to live in alignment with the universal laws. And this allows us to transform our reality in a deep and lasting way. Now, beloved ones, I invite you to reflect on this. What would you do if you knew you had the power to transform your life, to shape your destiny, and to live in harmony with the laws of the universe? What will you do with this wisdom that is finally being revealed to you? Share your reflections in the comments. Your journey of transformation begins now.